enthusiasts of all things athleticism and movement through space, including ballroom dancing, hip-hop dancing, and just the two-step. Well, welcome to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. Tex here, joined with two incredible coaches of the sport of basketball. One, Cory Schlesinger. Introduce yourself, man.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Good to be back. I had a great time last time, so I'm glad to see the home base now. This is quite the special spot, bro.
And long time coming, Zack Zillner. Welcome to the show, man.
How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
And what would be your title? Not your party title, like your formal position. You make the money.
I'd say Director of Sports Performance for women's basketball at University of Texas.
That's right down the road, Austin. And we came up for a little workout today at Power Athlete HQ, and then, of course, we got a guest in town. We got to sit down and enjoy the show and give them a glimpse, the audience, our normal conversation, which, believe it or not, is certainly centered around performance amongst other things, but not movies with you two.
Definitely not movies.
So, listeners, I'll do my best to tame the references. But, let's get started, man. Cory, you're coming off an incredible run. Your team kicked some ass. I was certainly rooting for them to bring it all the way, but now we got a learning opportunity to bring into the offseason and make the guys better. So let's get into that run a little bit, man. What was that experience from your side of the bench? And shit, man, we're going to deep dive training, but take it away from experience.
To be honest, you don't really know it until it's over. You know, like, I didn't know what our expectations of the season was, other than, of course, getting into the playoffs, much less making the run that we made. But obviously everyone's ambition is to win the championship going into every season, no matter what you're ranked. But to actually put ourselves in a position to be there in such a short amount of period of time, my only reservation was we had so much success so fast. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, oh man, I would love to be able to roadmap this better. But it's like we fell into success opposed to building success. Like, we built it too fast, and it was like, wow, it's here. And so I would love to have the opportunity to reverse engineer for sustainability efforts. Mm-hmm. But it's like, nah, we're here. This is it. This is what we're rolling with. And so it was quite surreal. But the best moment was actually watching them win it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but I wanted to be out there and watch the confetti fall and watch them enjoy it, because, I mean, that's the whole point of all this. But I wanted to feel that. So if it ever did happen one day, because it's a rare thing, no matter where you are, but it'll feel that much better.
Yeah. And Zack, you yourself had an impressive run with your team doing a little dancing.
We did. We made it to the Elite Eight this year, which I don't think anyone expected us to even get past the second round. So that's pretty cool. Not quite the championship game, but that's what we got gearing up for this year.
Yeah, our mutual friend Allie Kirshner, she got to walk the dance and
took
then
it for us, which was
walk out on top.
I've known Allie for a long time. She worked at Kansas when I was there. So it was really cool to see one of your friends and colleagues obviously bring home the championship.
Yeah, now she's kicking ass with hard coaching. Well, let's walk into our training session. So that essentially just said, set you free. Not often do I get an opportunity to be coached. So I was like, all right, let's find something I can fail at. And then you walked us through essentially your pre-game, which I thought was fascinating, man. So let's start there. What is your approach to getting your guys ready for the game, and how can we help educate the coaches out there to learn from your experience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there needs to be a little context, because the one thing that's interesting is, if you're outside looking in, you kind of wonder where a lot of these traditions came from. Like, you see a bunch of mini band work, and you see a bunch of, kind of like frou-frou stuff, and you kind of wonder, like, where did all this come from? And when you travel around and you realize, well, you don't have access to anything. And not saying you need fancy equipment to do good training, but you're really limited, especially on the road. And so it gets interesting really quick. Like, well, how are you going to develop, athletes when most of the season is on the road, and you're stuck in hotel rooms, and then you're stuck in hallways and arenas? Like, where are we actually going to get the training done? And so, just by environment alone, and luckily because I didn't have any norms or NBA traditions coming into it because I came from the college sector. I just tried my own thing. And so I just set up everybody on the baseline. And so part of their routine, it's pretty simple. When we get there, it's about 2.5 hours before tip, maybe even 3 hours, depending on our setup. Guys come in one by one. And so they have their individual shooting times, and that's all done before the 40 minutes on the clock. So 40 minutes on the clock, the coach speaks, and then the remainder of time is getting ready for the game. But in their individual shooting times, I take the guys, they'll come through the baseline, and then they will go through their training with me. And so for us, it's like our microdosing. And it's our way of getting in as many training sessions because there's 72 games in last season. So that's 72 opportunities to be able to get some motor learning and some load in. And that's a pretty special amount of time because when you add 10 minutes up over 72 periods, that's a lot of training time. And just because it's only 5 or 10 minutes in that one session, when you accumulate that, that's a lot of time you could get some stuff done. So that's where we do a lot of motor learning strategies more so than true load like you would experience in a traditional weight room. So for that, we actually break it off into a couple of segments. So the first is want to feel something, right? And that feel is individual or individualized for that specific athlete on things that they just can't really access. So like let's just say from a range of motion standpoint for a joint, a lot of guys like hips, shoulders, typical stuff, foot and ankle are limited based off the sport they play. So depending on their limitation, we attack a feel component. So you could use FRC, you could use yoga techniques. There's a lot of things that you could use just to get that feel aspect. So the one that we did on the video today was, man, I just look at you and you're a strong dude. And I'm like, he's muscle
like
bound.
a Lego blocked.
Yes, exactly. So because of your stature, I knew you were probably going to be limited in internal hip rotation because you move stuff often, which is, hey, don't get me wrong, from moving something heavy from point A to point B, that's what you need. But at moving super high velocities, you need some internal hip rotation. So we challenged that. So for him, we went through a single leg RDL and then broke it down. And so we're accessing internal hip rotation the best of our ability. And so once we got him into IR, glutes lit up like you wouldn't believe, right? And then that's when we can find pronation of the foot. And when we have those things correlating, then we can coil out of it and boom, create elasticity. And so that's where we start with the feel component. So we need to feel something that you don't necessarily feel enough of so that we can open up the window of opportunity to load it. So now we're moving on to the load, and it's hard to get load when you don't have a weight room. So you use a lot of manual resistance, or we actually use water bags because that's something we can take on the road and fill up. So I'm obsessed with water bags now. But I can get those things up to 75 pounds. And if I put anyone in a single leg stance and have that water moving, that's load. It's going to be tough for anybody, no matter how strong you are. So then we'll go into a load, and that load is usually in the form of an isometric. So once again, it's taking that feel component. We go into a load, into an isometric. Once again, we're still load, or we're still feeling, but we're doing it with load. And then we challenge. And that's once again, you take a lighter load, like a lighter aqua bag, or you take like a lighter, like a 10 kilo plate. And then from there, we are complementing a movement at lower velocities. So what we did was we did a single leg RDL, finding internal hip rotation, and then going into locomotion. So this is where you can kind of like start making some connections with some Franz Bosch methods. So we went from a single leg RDL into internal hip rotation and then into a smooth motion, driving our foot onto a ramp or onto a box. So now we're going into locomotion, feel that. Now we're challenging that through actual movement. And then, all right, let's add velocity, performance. So now drop the weight and then go as fast as you can. And then we do a very much more complex pattern.
Like, do your guys have a sense of what's going on? Do they feel their ability to move through space seamless and effortlessly improve? Or is it just they're focused on their skill and their game and their warm up?
So there's some guys that are like so in tune with their body, it's scary. Like it's hindering, and that's where you're like, oh my gosh, like you feel too much. You know what I mean? Where it becomes like challenging their mind. It's like, hey, just relax. It's okay. Just go play basketball. And then you have the others that are like, I don't know what we're doing here, but I'm here because this is my contract and I want to make a good impression. It's like, well, I like you too, because then you're compliant. But the idea is that you're in these moments, it's exploratory. This is the time where I'm taking something and reverse engineering it from their sport. So for example, if they are poor at change of direction, or they can improve and change the direction, well, hey man, all I'm going to do is try to make you feel these positions so that when you actually go out there and move laterally, you should feel more seamless, more efficient, more effective. And that's the goal, right? That to create efficiency. And so we do that through motor learning. And that's where a lot of the people I think mess up, is that they think strength and conditioning is all about the hardware of the body. Like, okay, we just got to get you bigger, faster, stronger. Well, how does that happen? How can I, like, the challenge to me, especially with older athletes, is do you make them bigger, faster, stronger by giving them more load? Or can I just take who they are and just challenge them from a motor learning standpoint, from a movement efficiency standpoint? Because unfortunately, they play 3.6 games a week, and asking for more outputs, it's just, I'm going to steal their resources from them performing in the game. And if I'm stealing their resources from them performing in the game, then I'm not doing my job, right? Yeah. I'm taking their job away. So that's where, now once again, back in college, totally different scenario. But working with the world's best, I mean, that's who they are. Like, there's 30 teams in professional sports. They're the best in the world at what they do. My goal is to make them better without stealing their resources. And that's where a lot of these motor learning strategies come from, and just getting them better at movement efficiency. Now, don't get me wrong, there's secret ways that we get load. It's not too secret, but there's ways that we get load to them, but it's at the right opportunities. And so once again, this pregame opportunity is just a way of opening up the windows. So when they go into their individual shooting, they feel good going onto the court. They're like, I have an opportunity to now move a little bit better, move a little bit faster, and then I'm adding skill on top of that. Yeah. And so because of that, I might be actually getting better. And then once they get better, then we go, oh, well, what's the next thing? And now let's make that more complex. Let's make it a little bit harder. Like, how are we going to challenge this without stealing their physical resources? And that's where some of the Bosch stuff comes in, that I'm like, this is pretty cool. So then we go to the 40-minute mark. Yeah. Coach talks to the guys. 20 minutes, they're in layup lines. Boom, game.
Yeah. And this is going to lead into a question for Zach, but is there like an NBA offseason for you?
This year, no. This year, because we're in quite an interesting scenario, because we've obviously made it to the last round, made it to a game 6 in the finals, and then they now want to get the regular NBA season back on track. So they want to go back to the original start date. So now the window of offseason is even shorter.
All right.
So for high minute guys, the priority truly is restoration.
Man. So then, like, I know the college side of things, that's like all off season, and then in season. How can you describe that to our listeners?
I would say in season we're pretty similar to Cory. We don't obviously travel as much, but anytime we practice, we lift or do something in the weight room before. So like 20 to 30 minutes, and kind of working on, fine tuning the stuff we built through the summer. So the summer, your terms of hardware, like you do all your traditional strength conditioning stuff. And then more in season, it's fine tuning of like, what do the high minute people need? What do the athletes that don't play need? Do they need speed? Do they need strength? Is movement more of a priority? Is efficiency more of a priority? So that's kind of how we fine tune it every day. And these athletes come in different every day, just depending on, the stressor from the practice before. Did they get enough sleep? Are they hydrated? Did they eat that day? All those factors. So
social stuff.
Exactly. So things that way out of our control will affect what we do that training session.
So then how do you assess and guide? It's not like, all right, here's our program, do it. You got assessment tools in place.
Yeah, we have different assessment tools. Like we have force plates, elite form, and then catapult. So we'll take, how they produce force. Force can be affected by numerous things every single day. So we'll jump them more frequently throughout the season. And that's just a small metric that we use into the whole equation. So let's say if I look at the force plate and the rate of force development went down, and I look at the elite form and the bar speed went down, I'm going to start asking questions of, hey, how was yesterday? Or like, what did practice look like yesterday? What was the load? Did you sleep all right? Do you have a test coming up? Do you have any other stressors that we don't know about? And then I can adjust their workout from there. Or, it's a low minute player, everything's going good, let's keep going. So it's kind of day by day. I think our questionnaire is just a simple conversation before we start the workout. They get their 20 minutes early to work on their stuff. And then through there, we'll have conversations of, hey, how do you feel? This is what we got on the agenda today. How does that feel with what you feel like doing? And then we'll come up with a plan.
Yeah, that conversation is important. Corey, do you, like, I imagine your relationship with the guys is pretty tight. Like, how's that conversation go in terms of weight into the assessment before they got to do awesome stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different because the power dynamics are different. And this is something I talk to Zack about a lot is, in college, and I loved college. Like, my college experience was the best. And there's a dynamic where you have a coach and then you have the student athlete. And I hate to pair it to where like the coach is above the student athlete, but as far as, you know what, I am the coach, I tell you what to do because I know what's better for you to get better. And don't get me wrong, there's a two-way conversation, right? It's like, oh, but this doesn't hurt. Okay, we'll find another alternative. But there is a power dynamic. Well, in NBA, it's quite the opposite. It's, well, they get paid millions of dollars and I don't get paid millions of dollars. And if I sneeze wrong, then it could be like, well, we don't really like you around here, Corey, so we're just going to buy your contract and you go. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But, the power dynamics are so different. And because of that, it's really, I'm their assistant. I'm not their coach. Like, I might have a coaching title, but the way I view the relationship with them is we're kind of coworkers. It's not the same, So like, we're the same age, it's like when we talk, we have grown up conversations. So it's more, and because of their vast experience, they've seen more coaches and strength coaches than I've been at certain places. I mean, these guys, they could be on 6 different teams in 6 different years, and they've had 6 different strength coaches. Some they like, some they don't like.
Yeah. And
they've done some things that they love and some things they absolutely hate. So for me to come in and go, hey, this is what we got today, they're like, what do you mean this is what we got today? So each individual, that's where it gets a little complicated because I have guys based off their experience that some love Olympic lifts, but most of the time I'm never going to hit an Olympic lift with an NBA player because they don't have that type of experience. So as far as like the assessment, when they come in, it's like, how are you feeling today? What are you feeling today? Like, what do you think we need to get in? Now, the only thing that I do different is I just schedule what kind of stressor it's going to get. So for instance, if it's a high day, like we're practicing high, so we need a high stressor as far as the weight room so we can, undulate, if you will. I need to give them some type of heavy resistance. Now, how that heavy resistance happens, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like a machine. It's a belt squat. Some other guys might be a front squat. But, the guys that are really experienced, they want to do some crazy stuff. That's awesome. But once again, they're like up to 32 years old. It's kind of hard. Like, heck, we had one guy that's 36 years old. It's kind of hard to say like, yo, we're going to put a bar on your back today. Let's do this. Let's grind. Like, it's kind of hard to have this culture of this is the specific philosophy that we are going to do as far as a training. It's every athlete has their own philosophy, and I find a way to bring the right stressor to that. So that's where it's a little bit different. It's hard to go, here's an assessment tool that we're going to use. Everybody get on the force plate today. Like, that's what college was awesome because you can dictate things 1 through 15. 1 through 15 in the NBA, it's the same, and that's where it's like, as much as we have access and availability to cool technologies, it doesn't find its way like that, So that's the part that's a little bit different, but it's really just a handshake. Like, yo, what's up? How you feeling? Boom. Oh, okay. You got some pep in your step today. We going? Okay. Today's a heavy practice day. So we probably need to get this done. Cool. I'll see you before, or I'll see you after. So that's really the assessment tool from that point.
Man. And how involved are both of you in, like, the sport coaches? You see the practices, or they give you the plans and then you have to adjust? Do you hang out at the practices? Like, how's that relationship?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think you always got to be at practice, just because, as we know, especially in college, like, there could be a plan and a drill doesn't go the way you want to do it, and all of a sudden you're on the baseline running sprints for 20 minutes. And so that light day just went to a heavy day. So I think that's why every day, like, the whole, like, 4-week plan periodization model for basketball is useless, just because one day that's different, your next day is obviously going to be affected for sure.
100%. Periodization is It's a joke.
God.
There's no such thing as periodization.
No.
Wait, you guys CrossFitters or?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Like, just grind. No, it's more of like, hey, let's just relax. Let's relax some more. Let's relax the most. you know. But yeah, as far as like practice involvement, like, you have to be there. You have to see what they're doing, and you have to be seen on the floor too, in my opinion, because you need to be as much of a part of practice as possible. Because if they're coming off that floor and you're just hanging out in your office and you're like, all right, here we go, 5x3s, we're hitting 80%, and they're going to look at you like, bro, did you just see what we just did? Like, that's not happening.
And they should see that you're invested in the ultimate goal is them getting better at basketball. And so if it shows my time I'm out there watching and engaged the whole time, it shows like he's invested in what I'm doing. And therefore he wants what's best for me. Instead
100%.
of just, like what you said, come in and we're going to back squat today. And it's like, we just ran, 30 gassers. What are you thinking?
Well, if you look at like these titles, right? Like titles mean nothing in the NBA. And that's the part of the NBA that I love is, quote unquote, I'm the director of performance / head strength conditioning coach. But I literally have a towel on my shoulder, and when there's sweat on the ground, I'm wiping it at everyone's feet like a NASCAR pit crew. Like if somebody falls, I'm literally on my hands and knees just wiping up sweat. And people get this like thought that, oh, I want to be, a strength coach in college or a strength coach in the NBA. And it's like, you're just still doing like blue collar stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it shows even better that like that's how invested you are in the team. That,
For
like,
sure.
You're not above passing out water, cleaning up sweat, picking up a guy's dirty towel.
100%.
It's just all like the whole one goal type thing. Whatever needs to be done to win a championship, like I'll get it on and scrub sweat. I don't care.
Oh, it was funny. We were talking about last night. He was talking about interns and managers. And I was like, bro, we don't have that. He's like, what do you mean you don't have interns and managers? I'm like, no, we do that. Like, we're all like directors of performance or directors of sports medicine or head strength coach, head ATC.
Cory's the floor sweat guy.
Yeah, I'm the floor sweat guy. I'm the guy that's putting bags on the conveyor belt. I'm the guy's like,
From the bubble, I was following the coffee game.
oh, the coffee game was strong. My man Kohei. Oh,
Was that for the players or the coaches?
Okay, 100% was for me. Like
Selfish guy
100%.
here.
It's so selfish. But it was 100%. My man Kohei. He's my sports scientist. He's brilliant, but we've had a relationship since Stanford, and it started Kohei's coffee shop. And so really it was for us staff, because I think most staffs are just huge coffee connoisseurs, and for obvious reasons, right? Stimulants. It could be other stimulants. That'd be bad, but it depends on what you can afford, I guess. But anyways, so we set up our coffee shop in the bubble, and now the players can smell it. And all of a sudden, like, I had some European guys who are like, espresso. And I was like, oh, we don't do espressos, but we'll figure it out. We'll just add more grounds and less water. And then next thing you know, coaches started asking for it. And man, boom, now we got a barista. So
We don't have a barista. Yeah, that's just me.
You big monster guy?
Nah, I haven't quite fallen into that yet.
God.
I'm waiting for that.
I take you as like a BC powder kind of guy,
Trucker stop stuff.
Yes, exactly.
What, C2 to the face?
Yeah, basically.
Dry scooping, is that what they call it?
Dry
That's what the
scooping?
kids
There's
do
a
these
term
days,
for this?
yeah.
Okay, actually, my fiance is huge. Like that, she does all of her pre-workouts that way. Just takes it, boom, to the dome, and I'm like, yo, that's not. Well, it's kind of hot.
Don't hurt me.
That doesn't sound pleasant at all.
And you know what? It shows some G though. So I give her
some
that.
grit.
She goes and deadlifts and squats heavy right after. So I'm like, well, maybe there's something to it.
I'm not on board.
He does not prescribe to the dry scooping.
I'm sure all that stuff's like illegal for pros, right?
What kind of stuff?
I don't know, the C2s, the off the shelf.
Oh yeah, I mean for us, there's obviously a substance or a banned substance list, but for us it's like as long as it's NSF, we're good. As far as what we provide for the athletes, we just third party that one because we do not want that problem. So everything for us everything's NSF certified.
Yeah. Back when I was in college, dude, like even like caffeine, Red Bull, simple shit like that. I remember one of my teammates chugging Red Bull and put it on like the scoreboard stand, like and then like the coach comes up and he's like looks around, it's like, who is this? It's like, I don't know, coach. He was like the closest dude to it. I don't know, coach. It was here when I got here, and just like
really, Red Bull was like a no-go.
Yeah,
like, you can't do caffeine stimulant.
I think caffeine is on the list.
04 to 08. was the glory days of lacrosse. Now it's downhill from there. But no, I kid. Man, I don't know.
You can even really.
I think so. I mean, there's so
NCAA has the dumbest rules. I'm sorry, I'll say it on this side so Zach doesn't get any but the dumbest rules are in NCAA by far.
What's your take on the new NIL as a non-contributor now?
I'll say this: I'm pumped. I'm pumped for it. I'm pumped for kids being able to make money off their own brand. Like, why wouldn't they be able to? I mean, shoot, I did. You know, I'm as a coach, like I made money. I created a social media so that I could have more exposure, more opportunities, and it worked out well for me. These kids, they don't get to do the same. That's crazy. Like, that's absolutely crazy. So for me, but now this is going to be the part that's going to get like the separation of the oil and water is what are the individual institutions going to allow? And so that's, to me, is going to change the landscape of you might get some low majors that can actually recruit top 25 kids because what they're allowed to do. And it's like they can make the most money at North Arizona University opposed to going to Arizona State. You know, like I'll be very curious to see how this all pans out because it's going to be interesting. Zach's scared to death.
No comment. No, I think it's great. I think it's great for them to get an opportunity to make, money off what they do.
And there's that one kid at Alabama. He's like hasn't taken a snap yet and already got seven figures.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Master P's son. He's incoming freshman at Middle Tennessee. Maybe
make him say, I love that. Yeah, good for him. Middle Tennessee is a no limit soldier.
Yeah, seriously.
I love that.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. For the record,
reference, he doesn't get the
music reference. That's us, Zach.
Yeah, we'll draw the line there. I don't get music.
Guy.
Anyone interested, any D3 All-Stars power athlete is looking.
There you go.
For give you some gear, give you some training. Email raven@powerathletehq.com.
Love that.
Suit up.
Wow, there you
go.
Yeah. The plug.
Yeah.
You sponsoring strength coaches yet?
Yeah. I'm waiting on that. I'm still waiting on sponsor deals. Now, would I get anybody any money? Probably not. But I'm trying. Actually, shout out to Bill Campo Meat.
Jump it off, Cory.
Promo code Cory10.
You need a coffee deal, dude.
I should get a coffee deal. But okay, here's the funny thing. I actually quit coffee.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to break it to you.
Yeah.
So
I quit coffee.
Yeah. Interesting.
I didn't.
So do you just go straight scooping or whatever that's called?
Just dry scooping with my fiance. Actually, I have a brilliant colleague. His name's Daniel Bove. He's with the New Orleans Pelicans. And we have a great relationship. And he told me he's been like coffee free for 6 months. And it's the best his gut, brain. Like he's like, I'm very good right now. And I was like, wow, me, I'm the exact opposite. So I'm going to just try it because that's the one thing that I abuse the most. Like when I look back and I'm like, okay, what do I eat the most? What do I drink the most? Like lotions, like what am I putting on my body the most? Okay, I need to reverse engineer. And like one of these are the problem. And coffee is the one thing I just abuse the most. So
I hope it's not coffee.
I really hope it's not coffee either because I love coffee.
Well, how long are you giving yourself? Like 30 days?
Well, I'm on day 3 right now.
That's big time.
So I'm crushing it. But I mean, compared
30
to
days, you can tell me you quit coffee. Just like I haven't
had
had coffee in 3 days.
And I was just like, dude, should I put this in the back seat? Can you smell this?
But yeah, I mean, my love and obsession, it's really the process. I think that's why I love it so much. It's a part of my morning routine. And the more and more you get into it, the more you're like, okay, well, the acidity and then the right temperature. I became that guy. And that's what I think I was more obsessed with the process than I was the product.
So you a water guy now? Like, so now tap water into the Brita into the something.
Test the alkaline. You get the strips.
Yeah. I'm more of like can I get fresh air guy? Because man, being in the valley, the air quality is awful.
It is
awful. Oh yeah, in the valley, in Phoenix, air quality is terrible.
It's just too many damn people, or does it get trapped in there?
It gets trapped. It gets trapped, And so like when I go up to Flagstaff, I'm sitting there like a fiend, just absorb. Oh my god, yes, fresh air, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I need to get to one day because I'm thinking about longevity now.
Yeah, I'm spoiled out here in the hill country. Recently traveled, got off the plane and waiting for a pickup, and I smelled a cigarette for the first time in fucking ever. And I was dying. I was like, this is horrendous.
That's how
That's
Vegas
why I stay out
was.
of the city.
Yeah.
We were at Summer League literally just 2 days ago, and I walked through the casino, and I'm like, I'm sick.
You can smoke in the casinos?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah. Wow,
like a
that's
freight
out
train.
there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and just I'll just say this: like, I'm not saying that quality. Like, this is gonna sound terrible, but like the quality of people that are just there, just freight train smoking. You just walk by and you're like, bro, like, if you can just see yourself, I don't think you understand how bad this is for you and everybody around you.
Well,
Like,
and
just
they're
get
probably
out.
boozing. It's like, how many
100%.
addictions can I get in this seat?
And meanwhile,
100%.
you're like worried about drinking too much
Coffee, exactly. I'm just like too much stimulant, too much.
Oh man, are you allowed to gamble
No.
at all? Not
As a-
even like blackjack.
Oh, that type of stuff. I'm gonna roll the dice here. No pun intended. I think I can, but I can't
a good
obviously
pun.
bet on games.
Nah.
Definitely not betting on games.
Do you have
That's all.
do you have a table game?
Yeah, I'm a sucker roulette. So I just play black, red, odd, even, and I go hard. And I got my method. So method's really simple.
Let me know. I have no
That's
idea.
not
I
bad.
just waste money on roulette.
This is actually my boy Derek Paris told me this. So basically, whatever you go in with, say you go in with like $500. All right, put 100 on.
for sure.
Easy.
Yeah.
Put 100 on black or red, right? Or odd and even, whatever the 50-50 ones are. Okay, if you lose, you double it. If you lose, you triple it. So at some point when you hit, you're going to recoup and then benefit. So for me, it's like, okay, you win, great, you pocket it. And then just keep playing that game. And then more than likely, like I come out pretty solid, but not this time in Vegas. Nah.
What, 5 rolls all black and just fuck.
100%. It was the exact same scenario, but red. And I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. So then I started playing odds and evens, and that went even worse. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. My per diem is done.
I remember I went in college and me and my buddies went. I was like, 100 on black, 100 red, gone. I was like, all right, I got another $100. Did it. Lost again. It was like 3 times in a row.
Right.
Lost. Had no money for the rest of the weekend. It was
It was
awesome.
sick. Yeah.
Great Vegas experience.
Yeah, pre-Vegas, I had the training wheels. That is Atlantic City on that East Coast.
Okay.
So learned a little bit how to protect yourself, and mostly from the mistakes of my peers. We couldn't rent a car. Like 25 years old, couldn't rent a car until you're 25. We were seniors in college at this point, so all 22. None of us wanted to take our vehicles up there because, like 8 dudes. So we rented a U-Haul van, 2 in the front, and then 6 guys. We just took all our college couch cushions, rolled up to Atlantic City, and
You sleep in it too?
This is legendary.
we're all freaking swinger style. As soon as we got out of this U-Haul after a 6-7 hour drive, this is maybe midnight now, we all just suited up and walked in like we owned the place. But then dudes, a couple guys were broke in 30 minutes.
Right.
I pulled out $200 cash and was worried, but then hit blackjack. I went up and we went around, and like the last one we were at, like guys were hitting at the Trump Hotel. And so it's like, all right, we're going to ride these 2 guys' waves. The rest of us that are out of money, we're just going to hang around and freaking watch like it's the Hangover. This is pre-Hangover, but yeah, man, just some adventures to learn from. Okay, then there's this option called the nickel slots that we're going to go kill a few hours while these guys are actually know what they're doing and then check in on them. But we were there for 13 hours and then drove straight back. And
Did anybody come out like serious?
serious good or serious bad?
Well, both, since we're here.
Let's say the goalie finished low, and then our defenseman, he finished on top, but it was enough of the trip to realize like, okay, $200 can get you up, and then like the per diem once it's gone. And we had a tradition, like each bar, the big winner from the previous casino, you buy a round of car bombs. So like I was the big winner, and immediately that was gone because freaking car bombs and AC,
Yeah.
it ain't cheap for 8 dudes. And
good
then
investment.
so it was a learning experience. But then training wheels for the Vegas time, that I've never lost money in Vegas. I spent money, but I've never lost money gambling. Stuck to blackjack because any roulette, it's like I'm gonna pick my lacrosse number and then lose.
Right,
okay, I don't want to lose anymore. But I guess the odds of winning a number are pretty damn high. Like hitting that.
Facts. And that's like, I saw all these other people strategically putting their stuff down, and I'm like, oh, black, And they're just looking at me like, you simple-minded.
Yeah.
But is there a strategy?
I mean, for them, I think there is. But for me, I'm just like, look, I'm sticking to my principles. I usually come out on top, but this time I did not. Well, actually, okay, I came out on top, and then I got greedy. So I walked away from the table, me and my sister. And then as I'm walking back through, I'm texting with my fiance, and I go, babe, red or black? She's like, red. I'm like, all right. So I take 800, put it on red. And I'm like, because if I come out, I come out. Did not come out. And then I text her, and I'm like, I lost it. She goes, it's your fault. I'm like, no, it's actually your fault, but
you told me.
It's still my fault. But, regardless.
Yeah, well, you did text her.
I did text her. I did. I said, babe, you're involved. You're in this. This is going to be your future life. Gambling on my decisions.
Yeah, one game I do want to get into is the craps, right? The dice.
Oh, yeah, that looks awesome. Looks like a fun time.
I don't get it, but it's big in movies.
Yes. I have no idea what's going on, but, man, they get rowdy.
Yeah. Wellborn's a big craps guy, but just the...
I like the team environment of it.
Right. I like that.
But there's always one guy.
Yeah, but there's always
Rooting
one guy on a
against.
team, too.
No, but rooting against the
Right.
vibe and the energy of the table. I just don't understand the psychology, so I can watch that guy and root against him, rooting against everyone else.
I dig that guy. I dig that
No.
guy. I dig that
He's
guy.
The villain? Are you rooting for the
Dude,
Joker?
He's got a bald head.
I'm all
He's a
about the
villain.
villains.
He's a villain. Every villain's got a bald head.
Brother, you have a bald head as well. But yes.
Now I'm thinking like run through all the Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the only one.
Yeah. I feel like there's always
Now,
Dr. Evil.
in these like
Awesome.
small
Dr.
towns-
Evil,
Dr. Evil.
Jeff Bezos.
Wow. I'll take Bezos. Yeah, I would love to be that kind of evil. That'd be amazing. Like
Sure.
world changing evil. I'm in.
I mean, have y'all seen the spaceship meme?
No. What? No.
Jeff Bezos spaceship?
Oh yes, the phallic spaceship.
Yes.
Yes. He's a winner. He's a winner.
I mean,
Or wiener,
hats off.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hats off to the scientists. They were able to like
Pull
okay,
that off.
yeah,
Get that to the moon and back.
Science.
Science.
yeah, off the rails as per usual.
Yeah,
what
training.
else?
And now let's lift weights.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are the biggest differences between pro and college? And Zach, you've got some athletes that have now gone pro, Olympic gold medalists, right? So
Yeah.
you get a taste of that when they interact with you or come back and train. So like, what are the biggest differences when we talk about being a professional athlete versus being the college guy?
I would say night and day, but I'll start like Zach. You should start off the college, like how many games they play a week, season, and then I'll follow up. See how we game plan that. No one heard that. All right, let's go.
So we have 30 to 35 games, hopefully. And Cory, you have around
72 last season, but it'll be 82 next year.
So
And that's just
plus.
regular season. And then the playoffs, obviously, 4A, 12, 16.
Yeah.
So 16 is the minimum amount of games to win a championship.
We probably have them on campus longer than you guys have access to them throughout the year. So
Exactly.
we probably like 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off total throughout the year. And your guys, it's probably, I mean, your starters, you're probably not going to see them for a while.
I probably won't see him until around training camp. So for you, how long is the actual season?
It would be beginning of November to hopefully April.
So how many months is that?
Do the math.
November.
I'm counting.
One.
I'm not a math guy. 1, 2, 3, and then the new year. How many is this?
Yeah,
7?
About half the year.
Ours is like 8 to 9.
Yeah.
So like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's where in season for us is the only time to get training really in unless you're not playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. Like year one, it was like, oh man, look at all this open time we got. Year two, I'll see you guys at training camp.
Yeah.
You know?
You screwed it up by going to the finals. Less time to hit the weight room.
Well,
Idiots.
Yeah.
idiots. Love losing in the finals. Anyways, but yeah, like with my college experience, it was we had more preparation time than we do competition time. But in football, it's even more so. Like I look at college football and I'm like, oh, amazing, right? Like no wonder why they get to have these cultures and, you know, whatever driven by the strength coach, because the majority of the year is dictated by the strength coach. And that's where it's the exact opposite, especially like the extreme end, which is the NBA, is, you know, we play 3.6 games in a week. And then we travel like you wouldn't believe. You know, like I remember when I was in the Pac-12, we only played like Thursday, Saturday. And then we traveled every other week. And I look back at that and I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Like I used to complain about that travel then. Now it's like, oh, geez, like it's not even worth mentioning.
Yeah, I'm sure the MLB coaches are like, shut the fuck up.
Oh, exactly. Hey, and exactly. That actually is the other extreme. It should be the.
And they're there all day.
And they're there all day. All day and all. Yeah. You know what? Let's not even bring them into the conversation because that is like the beyond extreme. Like I had no ambition for that one. None. But at least we're indoors. That part's cool.
Sure.
Love that. Sure. And we wear tank tops. Jersey season year round. Of course you're doing arms. Yeah. You know?
It's true.
Do you have to convince anyone to do arms? You don't have to name names.
Convince people to do arms? No. But I have to convince them to do the exact opposite. I have to convince them to do legs. That's what I have to convince them to do. Arms, yeah, that's pretty easy. But except for shooters. Shooters want to stay away from arms, which I'm kind of with them on that. Because it's a soft skill, right? Like it takes a little to throw off that rhythm.
Do every high school basketball coach just jumped all over that and are going to eat that clip up?
Yep.
How would you advise them to encourage their high school shooters to lift weights?
They're not that good at shooting, so they're good. They're fine. You know, and then when the younger you are, the more plastic you are. And what I mean by that is like literally you can train everything concurrently, rather it's you're learning about adult education to like swimming to bowling to shooting and also lifting weights, and concurrently all those are going to come up together. When you get older, that changes significantly. You have to really, really understand the stressors and how they have effect on skill.
We had a couple years at a private high school, and then the only coach that I had challenge connecting the value of the weight room was the basketball coach, and for that reason. And I'm like, and then we would do similar approach for the warm up, just body weight movements, and then eventually would get them in the weight room in season. How the private school was set up. Weight room access in season only. But then each student, so it was a private school, each student would play 3 sports a year. So they get exposure to the weight room year round, but then it's like, all right, basketball focused in the weight room. And then, man, those guys were beat up. So then our weight room sessions were twisting, bending, doing anyone following Power Athletes Iron Flex. That's a model of it, aiming to improve athleticism, strength through some manual resistance, a lot of isostability, and then the coach would observe and just took that away. And it was into bodybuilding.
That would be what I would do with any kids at that age. Like, what was it called again?
One of our programs, Iron Flex.
That's all I would use. Like I don't even know what's in it, but based off the 3 things that you said are in it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's all kids need.
Well, that's what I'm sure you got a million emails from high school coaches being like, what should we do? And it's like, we can get them strong. Don't worry about that. Make sure they can move once they get here, so I don't have to undo everything. Right. It's not hard to make somebody strong. It's progressive overload.
I tell them when I was in college, every recruit that came in, I'd be like, stop lifting. Yeah. I would just tell them to stop because I don't want to have to redo the BS that is coming in. Because
you get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, you're going to be this guy. Well, everybody's going to try to latch onto your success. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to train you so hard that they're the reason why they got to Stanford, or they're the reason they got to the blue blood. And it's like, dude, like, I'm not impressed with your 315 quarter squat on this kid that's like literally like shaking under a tree. You know, I'm like, I'm not impressed by it. Like, and I never will be impressed by it. And so, and that was the unfortunate thing about like having a following. Yeah. Especially like Stanford, was these guys like thought that was their way in. And so they would be like sending me videos like, look what we're doing. I'm like, just stop. Yeah. Like you try not to be rude, but you're messing up my recruit. Yeah. Like I got him for 4 years. You got him for 3 months.
Yeah. He doesn't need to deadlift 400 pounds.
Facts. You know, they're like, oh, we're trap bar in the world. And I'm like,
are you really?
Yeah.
You're picking it up. I don't know if that's a deadlift.
I don't know what that is exactly. But, you know, that's where I have to undo so much. And then their biases coming in, you know, now it's like, so that's where my best approach, but it was also my most exhausting, was pulling them in and then being their coach. So it's like, because I had influence that I can go in and be like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this, this, and this? And it should look like this. I'll send you videos, and then they would apply that. And then that's kind of what the NBA is kind of like, because when they go home, they got their guys. Yeah. You know, they got their guys, and that's totally cool. Like at first I thought that would be like intimidating. At first I'd be like, oh man, like how's this going to work? Like, I'm with them for 8 months and they're with them for like a month and a half, 2 months. And then, like it's my guy. The reality is not you. It is their guy.
Yeah.
And your goal is to be a part of their guy. And so, hey, this is what we've been doing. Whatever you see fits, let's go. And you bring them into the fold and empower them as much as you possibly can.
So at the end of the day, like they are seeing them every day for that month.
Exactly.
Like
So
they're
maybe
going to
they
do have a better.
They have a
grasp
way
on
better
things.
pulse. A way better pulse. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Do Zach, the girls that went on to the WNBA, do they have any access to training, weight room? Or are they still leaning on you to give them tools?
It's kind of both like that. Like I'll send plans out when they ask them for it, and I'm like, hey, here's what you were doing before. Show this to your new guy. See what he sees every day. If he has a question or whatever, call me. But like, you should defer to your coach that you have now because they see you every day. They're hired by the team. I don't want it to turn into one of those like, this guy in Austin thinks I need to be doing X, Y, Z, and he's like, well, he didn't see practice yesterday. He didn't see the game. He didn't see our travel schedule. So just kind of having that open dialogue with their coaches. They have good coaches, and that obviously at the pro level. So it's kind of one of those, hey, here's, the plan of what she has been doing. If you want to do that, cool, or a variation. If you want to do your own thing, like coach what you know. If you don't know what I have programmed out, like don't coach it. Coach what you're really good at.
That's the thing that I've experienced a little bit different is when the athlete is actually the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're that invested into themselves, they're getting like 26, 28, 30 years old. They just they know more about their body than I ever would because they're experiencing and they can articulate it. And that to me is like, that's the ultimate athlete is the one that can actually, and that's why I say I'm their assistant because they can actually articulate it to me to the point where I'm like, yo, like, wow, like that's what you're feeling. I know what that is. The fact that you know what that is so impressive. All right, let's ride.
Those are usually your best players because they've finally bought into like taking care of their bodies and doing more than just showing up to practice and doing what's on your sheet and going home.
Yeah, or the best teammates even. Because maybe they not have the genetic capacity, but then still they're a good representation of what can be done to be a professional
for sure
athlete. Dude, that's a beautiful point. I'll give a presentation on Friday for the life cycle of a coach, which I will love to get into, and it's leading these people down a journey, a coach's journey, and then that's the final stage. At this point, like I'm gonna conclude the presentation of I'm at halftime of my career, but it leads to the point of the athlete-led outcome.
Yeah.
So you go through it. Imagine you begin. This is good practice for me because I got to stand up and deliver this in 2 days. But imagine the career begins with experience. And recall our first coaching experiences. Mine was a grad assistant lacrosse coach coaching my teammates. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I told it before on the podcast. I injured somebody on day one, rep one.
Day one, rep one.
Tore their rotator cuff, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Exactly. So, like, then it goes through these progressions, and then eventually leads to how I'm breaking it down, like 3 phases, and there's components of each phase. It's coach, it's create, and then teach. So, example, right now, I'm asking teach-related questions for you to explain, but then there's a phase where, and we went through this on the previous podcast, you had awesome opportunities through Wake Forest, UNC, and then before UAB, somewhere in California.
Santa Clara,
where you're the director, and then you got UAB, and then Stanford. So like an awesome walkthrough of your career where you started out coaching, and then eventually somewhere along the lines you started creating your own program, methodology, philosophy, all these things. But before, you had to learn from a lot of mentors.
For sure.
Right? And then eventually you get into this teach mode. And that's a lot of the cool stuff and content that both of you guys are putting out. It's now you're trying to educate and hand off and empower interns, empower other coaches so they don't F it up. And it's not just mirroring it. They actually understand where this would fit into an athlete's life cycle. And then the final piece of that teach, I'm drawing a blank right now, but the final piece would be athlete-led outcomes, to where you're asking them, how do they feel? What do you want? And then it's leading that through it. A recent podcast I did with Justin Kavanaugh, he had an athlete, Jason Rogers, 100-meter sprinter in the Olympics. And at that stage, Like Justin's asking him, hey, what do you want to do today? And then he has his map, his plan, and then he's going to see how connected Jason is with the plan, and then can convince Jason to get on plan, but almost giving Jason, this world-class athlete, the keys, and then helping him, like the co-pilot. If we're driving up to Kansas City, somebody's making sure we're staying on track, but then the athlete's driving, right? So it's that's speech in a nutshell. I got 50 minutes to take people on this journey, but that career, you guys have done a great job of maintaining passion for this sport within the politics and the long hours, which, I mean, selfishly, I want to explore because you guys are doing it. You're out there doing it. I'm sitting here in a podcast room hanging out with Charles.
It's a cool spot.
I mean, it's a dope spot, and I don't know Charles, but he looks awesome. So
well, he's a big basketball guy. Some of our conversations.
But I mean, that was the career, right? Was, we start off thinking, I've acquired this knowledge. Now I need to expel this knowledge, and I expel this knowledge by coaching it. And then this is the way to get it done. There's no other way, because this is the way I learned it, which is great because you teach what you know. And that's what Zack talks about all the time, which I love. And then it turns into, well, is that enough? And then you just keep evolving. And then when you have athletes for 3 to 4 years, at what point do you go, yo, you should know your body by now. Like, you know the system. How can we now work without or outside the lines to get your next level? And to me, that's autonomy. And that's what, because I was at Stanford, I had these kids that were just incredible human beings, right? Mm-hmm. They're so, I mean, in every aspect, they're just brilliant. But I'm not just talking about they're so smart. Like, socially, they're so, like, I mean, it's like they were adults. They're like adults. And so from that point, like, it was even like year 2 where I was able to say, hey, here's 4 exercises. You choose which one you want to do. Okay, year 3, yo, what are you feeling today? Year 4, hey, this is what I'm thinking this week. What are you thinking? And it was because, and that's what it should get to, because it's almost like, was it Bruce Lee or whatever you like? It's water, right? Like, it should flow like water. And when you start coaching a kid, it's a dam. Like, okay, we got to hold the water here because we got to have structure. And once we show that some structure, okay, now we're going to let out the water. Okay, let's see where the water goes. They got to build another dam, or it's doing great, just let it flow. But that's kind of the idea. Is I love what you said, athlete led. Like, that's what it should be. It should, and that's why I say, especially at the NBA with older athletes that are more experienced, I'm their assistant. I'm not their coach. I'm literally their assistant in strength. That's it.
I think you've done a great job when you have an athlete that comes up to you and they're like, hey, my knee's bothering me for back squat. Do you care if I switch it to like a single leg RDL? And you're like, absolutely, that's great. Like, the exercise, what modification we should make. And then obviously if they're able to coach another athlete on, what you want from a certain exercise, like I have 2 seniors now that I can trust them. They could probably run the session better than me. Don't tell anybody that, but they do a great job of, like, this is our standard. This is how we do things. And then I trust them that when they come in, they're telling me, yo, my legs are done from practice. Can we do whatever modification we want? It's like, yeah, your body the best. They've seen what stuff works, what doesn't. So I think that's how you've done a good job. If you have a senior that has no idea what a front squat is and you've had them in for 4 years, you probably need to work on your communication skills a little better.
Well, you'd be amazed about how many guys that are like, they one and dones, and they come in and then they've been just to every single, like, they've been through like the G League or they've been through Europe, and then they come back and then they've never been at one place, no matter if it's college, no matter if it's professionals, whatever. They've never been at one place. So they're like 26, 27 and they still can't execute a lunge.
Yeah.
And you're just looking there, you're like, man, that, like, poor kid, like, it's not our poor man, it's not their fault. It's just they weren't able to stay in one place long enough to get exposure. A year, don't get me wrong, you can get a lot done in a year. You really can. But with the chaos of trying to secure a contract, the chaos of putting all your resources into film and skill acquisition and being able to execute, like, that is way more than a controlled setting. Like, here's a lunge in the weight room.
Yeah.
So when that's not executed, then their whole life is just unbelievable chaos and stressors that they can't even just nail down simple movement patterns like that.
That's the thing, is like, especially first year of college, like, their first priority is like, how can I figure out basketball?
Right.
The new system, all that stuff. How can I figure out living on my own, going to class, feeding myself, being an adult? The last thing they're probably really paying attention to is the detail of your split squat and what you want. So it's like, let's not overcomplicate that area. Like, let's let them figure out, what does coach want on the court? What do I need to do in the classroom? And then by the time that sophomore season is usually when they make the biggest gains in our area, because they figure that stuff out. For sure. They know how to be an adult. And then they're like, all right, I recognize this room is important. Let's pay attention to the details more.
Yeah, sophomore to junior year was fun. Yeah, those are always the fun years.
Yeah, makes you look really good.
And for the students, I had a great time. Now for the coaching career, the life cycle of a coach, like where have y'all witnessed people just falling out? Like great coaches that just reach a pivot point in their lives that say, you know what, this ain't for me, or I can't take it anymore.
I think the best way for me to answer that is what I'm hypothesizing for myself. Because I don't know what this looks like, but I know if I have kids, how that's going to change everything. Because I do not know how much availability I would have if I stayed in my current role. So that's where it's like your family dynamics are going to dictate a lot. And so that's where I think most coaches' careers do change unless they have certain type of like partner dynamics. But like for me personally, like my partner is a doctor. So like we're both very ambitious in what we do. And so one of us is going to have to give at some point, especially when we're trying to have a family dynamic. Thus, that's going to change my career path. But I would say typically go to college, do the college thing. If you're able to get into the pros, do the pro thing. And then they eventually go, I don't know how long I can do this. And then they do the private thing. I think that's usually like the cycle. And you can see why. I mean, it's very stressful. I mean, it's a long season. It's a lot of demand, and it's high pressure all the time. So for the guys that are in it for like 20-some years, those guys they're legends. It's amazing that they've made it to that point. And I'm only going into year 3, and I'm already like feeling like, wow, this is long. Like this is actually pretty tough. But at the same time, like you develop some experience, so you know how to, okay, maybe I don't need to put as much thought into that. Because when you first come in, everything's like the highest priority. And then you start realizing like, okay, maybe that's not as important as I thought it was. And then you're able to hopefully develop a system or have help underneath you. But yeah, I think most of the time for coaches, when they split off or they change, it's because of a family dynamic, or it's because they get burnt out and they're just like, okay, how can I get the most amount of money with the least amount of time? And to be honest with you, I respect it. Do what you got to do, because I mean, your mental health at some point is going to give, and it's going to affect your family dynamic. So
for sure. Like if you don't have that, I think when you're young, it's easy to be in the weight room all day, every day, just because like you're soaking everything up. It's your first couple of jobs. Like it's cool. And then you kind of realize like what is important in life. The other day, I was training some of our athletes, and one of them asked me, she's like, Zach, how long do you think you're going to do this? I was like, do what? She's like, coach. Like, you're going to coach till you're like 60 or 65. And I was like, never really thought about that. Like,
dude, that sounds awful.
But like, can you picture yourself at like the retirement age, like still get lower on your squats? Like, probably though.
But. Yeah, this sparked from a conversation with Donnie May.
Yeah.
And essentially him communicating with peers, asking them the same question in a book that he read that I'm diving into. It's called Halftime. And okay, what do coaches do at halftime?
All right.
Make adjustments. So are we taking the same mental approach to our careers? If we reach this halftime, this point, what adjustments are we going to make to continue to win the match, win the game?
I'm trying to think, what is there a halftime? Because that's hard. Like I bet most coaches think they can't take a halftime. I don't think I could take a halftime. I'm like, because you got to be so financially secure to take a halftime. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'm not talking a sabbatical, but just a breath, a moment, or maybe a mindset where you take a month off, you visit Austin.
Did you say
see
a month
this amazing
off?
office?
What strength coach can take a month off?
I don't know.
That's the pressure that college and pros is there is like zero time off. Like I had a 3-day weekend because I had to get my assistants off because guys were still sticking around before summer league. And this is coming off that 9-month season. you know? So that's when I was like, okay, when am I going to take mine? And then now I'm here and I'm just spending a couple of days, but I got to go right back. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we got guys that, because they love Phoenix, they stick around Phoenix, so I'm there. And then I got to go site visits. So then I got to go to, now don't get me wrong, I get to go to Malibu and stuff like that. That's fun.
Poor Cory.
You know, man, that's terrible. But at the end of the day, that's still like, I'm flying, I'm in hotels again. I don't like.
It's not about you. It's not a time for you to unplug and disconnect.
It's not
still
like
working.
It's like, I don't get to make that decision.
Yeah.
I don't get to go, okay, I'm going to Barbados.
Yeah.
I don't make that decision. Now, would I love to make that decision? Absolutely. But that's where, when you said halftime, it like actually kind of hit me, because I was thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I've never taken a halftime, or I've never even taken a timeout. Like, I'm trying to think if I've taken a timeout in my entire career, and I haven't. So you just hit me with some stuff.
Also, I feel like once you lose like your love or passion for it, then it's either time to like re-tinker what you're doing or like pivot completely. Like if you find it, the one thing that you used to love about coaching, like I love teaching. And so if I find that I dislike teaching, the why behind why we do everything, then it's probably time for me to do something else, find a different situation, kind of bring me back to my why. And I think if you don't know your why, then I think you could definitely struggle with.
Well, let me ask you this
thing.
then, Coach. What's the longest you've been at a place?
Texas, which is crazy.
How many years?
Going on my 5th season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine average is 2.
Yeah.
2.5.
That was mine before it was a little under 2 years.
Good for you.
So move.
But that's the career.
Yeah.
Like, it's just move, job. I mean, every offseason, everybody's talking about jobs. Like, what? How am I going to? Yeah, well, might be a lateral move, but it might be worth it. So, and then it's that, oh, it's fresh, it's new. Mm-hmm. And then around year 3, that's when it goes, oh, it's about that time. Around, you know, it's like, I don't know, like, do I need to shake it up? Do I need to keep advancing? How's this work?
I can't even imagine juggling it with a family.
Dude.
Like, you had to make most of those moves just by yourself, which was like,
that's
dude,
easy.
I can live wherever, I don't care. But it's like, if you have
wherever,
wife, kids, easy with the whatever. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, we're
that's
Southern.
where I spent a lot of time thinking about my why.
Right.
And you really love this. I think if you live in a place that's not ideal for you, you kind of think like, do I really love coaching as much as I say I do?
You know you love the sip.
Yeah.
You know you love the
Mississippi
sip.
was great. I had a good experience there.
I came out. The only place that I was at for like 2 years, that was like, was Bowie's Creek, North Carolina. But like, I was still by Raleigh. And that was close enough to home, whereas I still had friends and stuff like that. But I've been lucky, man. I've been like, Colorado Springs, Bay Area twice. Birmingham, Alabama is awesome. Like, I loved my time in Birmingham. Now, don't go outside of Birmingham, but I love my time in Birmingham. And then Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, Phoenix is amazing. So I got lucky. Big time.
I'm the luckiest, though. I live in Austin.
Dude, Austin is probably like top 3. Easy. Top 3.
It's okay.
He doesn't want people moving here.
Yeah, that's a horrible. You shouldn't go here.
You can move to Austin. Don't move to Dripping Springs.
No.
Show Rogan you need to zip it up about my town.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the talk, the aim is I'm going to use the term periodization.
Yeah.
But the aim is I want people to start to think of their career as periodization, right? Different blocks, different phases of development, and then reverse engineering, however, from a goal. What is my lifestyle goal? Is it a family? Okay, well, if this family is my goal, well, I need to reverse engineer my career to set up success for that. Traveling every year, 2 years, doing 4 years of internships, unpaid.
Yeah.
You're not putting yourself in a position. You got to find a doctor and lock that down. So
that I did.
Like, if you have this aspect, this dream outside of your life, then this career, is it leading towards it? And that's the primary of the talk. The audience essentially is for a private training company to help them maintain their staff versus them losing quality people for this dream desire of freaking 4 more years of internships before I go into medical sales.
Multiple streams of income. That is it. Find ways of multiple streams of income.
Once you
can do that,
more than a strength coach.
You got to be more. You got to be more. And that's where, like, I get on a pedestal a lot because a lot of strength coaches are negative about social media. And I'm like, yo, like, you don't get it. Or you're like the SEC football strength coach that's making like $600,000. And of course, you don't need multiple streams of income. But most of us do need multiple streams of income to set up financial security so that when that day does happen where, you know what, we don't like Cory no more, he's gone. You know how hard it would be to find another job of equivalency
it's like if you're not planning for that already, like you're already behind.
You're already behind.
So like you might read all these periodization books and whatnot, but if you don't know anything about marketing, finance, any of these, I took a few MBA classes, and those really opened my eyes of like, especially the marketing part of like, I'm my own brand, how do I position that to better get me a better position, or have people take me more seriously when I'm in a meeting with administrators or anything like that. I think you have to be more well-rounded than how do I get bigger arms and faster 40.
I mean, those are two pretty awesome things, though. I think you definitely need that.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Well, where would you direct people to find those resources? Many can't go take master's levels courses, but is there any guidance you suggest for these guys?
A masterclass.
Masterclass.
So like I have like a Con Ed budget, and the first thing I bought was a subscription, like a 3-year long subscription to Masterclass. It's the coolest thing in the world, in my opinion. Like I got inspired and thought about, wow, that's kind of actually how I dictate training off a graphic designer.
Huh.
And I was like, wow, like I would not put those two things together, but I believe it or not, the app Masterclass, 100%.
To quote Steve Jobs, creativity is in the connections.
Yep.
So you're able to bring that in through your experience.
Think about creativity, like how you come up with a lot of the new stuff you're doing is finding creative solutions for problems that you have.
Lateral thinking,
right?
Ali Kirshner.
Yeah.
Well, that's true though. Like, and that's where I question. Well, that was my experience at Stanford. Was I used to believe in the Olympic lifts. Not saying that the Olympic lifts are not beneficial. I just don't think they're the most efficient. So when I looked at cleans and snatches, and I saw squat numbers go up, and now I got access to force plates, but I don't see force plate numbers change. Oh, I'm probably doing something wrong. So I got guys up to, initially those force plate numbers changed pretty drastic, and then they staled. And I was like, but we're getting stronger. Like we're lifting more, like cleans are faster, they're bigger, squats are heavier, but the force plate numbers aren't changing. So I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? And then it took some help, but I got some thinking, and I got to get down to like some deeper level that I was like, wow, I'm just looking at weight training all wrong. And so when I stripped all that away, that's where I came up with all those trap bar variations. Yeah.
Hardware, software.
But like that trap bar, like I took the same kid who can barely get up like 100 kilos is pretty good for a clean. But like especially for a basketball player. But he took 200 kilos and moved it at the same speed. And I'm like, it's just about putting force into the ground. It doesn't matter the vessel, how it gets done.
Mm-hmm.
So like, don't get me wrong, I love the technical proficiency and the things that you get from cleans, from snatches, from those movements. And it does have cross-pollination, all these others, like postural strength and all these other things. So it's beautiful. And you get it all in one lift. I love it. But after that, then you're chasing these like fractions of a kilo to keep getting heavier, but you're not getting anything out of it. Like you've tapped it. So then you have to go to another means or method, or you just start with that means and method to begin with and just hijack the whole thing. But, it's that same principle. Like I had a problem. I needed to find a solution for it. My Achilles ruptures, right? I needed to find a problem. Kettlebell partner passing or passing in itself just to get the eccentric RFD without coming off the ground. Boom, solve that problem. Well, ish. But I don't think you can ever truly come back from Achilles the same.
You won't be dunking again?
Ever. But I have a mean finger roll, though. Mean finger roll. But I just don't think you can truly, unless you have some help from some other things that are illegal, you're not going to get to that point again. And that, regardless, at the end of the day, whatever problem you have the solutions. If you only use the same tools that you've had your whole life, then it's going to be the same solution every time. And so that's where you gotta, I guess you said, Ali, talking about lateral thinking, but you have to have the access and you have to have the vulnerability to try it. And a lot of people are not willing to do that, especially in strength.
Even to ask questions. Like, I think it takes a huge ego hit for someone to call Cory and be like, hey, I saw you do X, Y, Z. Like, why are you doing that?
Oh, it's even better when they don't even ask the question. And all of a sudden you just start seeing them do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've stole stuff from everyone.
Yeah.
And I give credit
Like
to
we all have,
everyone.
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like I didn't come up with the squat, guys. You know what I'm saying? But like you see it and it's like, guys, like I forgot who said this, but I don't think there can be an original thought anymore because it's all extrapolated from other things that's already been done. The only thing you did, and it's what you said, is connected. Like, how did you connect those things? And that might be the quote unquote original idea. But at the end of the day, it came from a principle that's already set. And that's where it's like at the end of the day, like there's no true original thought anymore. It's just, where did I get it from? What inspired me to get there? Okay, it's my collection of experiences that's so unique that allows me to make those connections. Did I just drop something? Was that serious or?
I concur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom. I feel we can't top that. So
I mean, we haven't even talked any nuts and bolts about training though.
Yeah.
Do we need to?
He's here. Ask him training questions.
Do we do that? I don't even know.
well, all right.
Force velocity curves and
No. That ain't this show. It's the premier podcast in strength and conditioning in which we use strength and conditioning as an excuse to talk about everything but, as we've demonstrated this. I've said that once or twice. Well, yeah, let's end it and leave some for the next conversations in which we get the opportunity to connect. Fantastic. When the confetti does fall for one of y'all.
Let's do it.
All right.
For you.
Come on now.
Guys, gentlemen, thank you for joining us in Austin, Texas for another episode of Power Athlete Radio.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.